Hello, hello, and we are live yet again. So I always like to start off with a base question when people are logging in and I'm waiting for my co-host of the night is what are you currently reading? So let's see. She's already ready.
There we go.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to a live event. Were you able to do this pretty smoothly?
Yeah, I was like, I got on. I was like, oh, here I am.
I know. Then you're like a deer in the headlights, and you're trying to like freeze and figure out what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, and then like my kids are downstairs. I'm like trying to do everything today.
You got it. You're good. You're good. And you're on and on time. I mean, this is perfect. So perfect. Well, thank you for joining me this evening. And I just like to let you know that I always kind of begin these where I let you talk about your books for a few minutes and then I'll do the same. And that's because, in case you don't know, people will log on both of our feeds and it just allows everybody to know everybody before we get into other topics.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Yeah, and if you have books, you are fully welcome to show them if you have them around. You can go. It's fine.
Right here.
Yes. Okay, so I'll let you go first. Just let everybody know who you are. Hello. And what you're all about.
Sure. Hi, I'm Kari Pohar. And my side hustle or my side job is an author, and I wrote Chateau Merlot. I know it's backwards. I'm not sure how to. This is my first live, so I'm not sure how to flip it while we're live. But it's Chateau Merlot.
The trick is we don't know if you can do that. So it's fine. It's fine. You can show the reverse image. I figured out after, because I do these enough, where I did an inverse poster. So the poster is actually backwards, but it looks like it's not. So advise that for all authors who decide to use these lives and this platform a lot. But yeah, so tell us a little bit more about your book. Yeah.
All right. So Chateau Merlot is a vampire novel. And Chateau Merlot is a luxury apartment building where she houses her humans. So it's a vampire-owned apartment building where she houses her humans like a wine cellar.
Interesting. Creepy and fascinating.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a blood type hierarchy. So depending on your blood type, depends on how, quote unquote, valuable you are to the vampire. They appreciate their blood types rare. So the AB negative is like the one that they really, really want.
That makes sense because it's that exclusivity that people always, in vampires in this case, desire.
That's cool. So on the cover of my book, I've got wine. And,
yeah.
Oh, my ring light. All right. So right there's a wine bottle and it says AB negative. That's not wine. That's blood. That gives a hint to the to who the main character is. He has AB negative blood.
So your main character is a human then?
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to figure that out because you're setting it up as a whole vampire. Okay, I was curious.
Yes. So the main character is Steven, and he is a human, and he is down on his luck, living in this big city, and he lives on the part of town that is very, very poor because he doesn't have a job, and he ends up on an app called Once Bitten that is the app for vampires to connect with their donors.
It's fantastic.
And so he's never even done dating apps, much less going on there to sell himself. So that is how the book opens.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm always fascinated with worlds of vampires and especially new takes or new twists on them. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah. So my editor, when I got it back, he was like, this is like a unique take on this genre. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback about that as well, that even people that don't read the vampire genre, they're like, I even like this, even though it has vampires in it.
Hey, that's cool. I mean, like you said, it's very different take. It's not, I know there's a lot of people who do like the spicy or the romantic
Mhm.
side of the vampire lore. Some like it very dark and gritty. But this, I'll have to, so how do you describe your book? Is it like, what is the subgenre of your book?
Um, well, it's in a
Or
city,
genre?
so it's going to be urban fantasy.
Hmm.
Um, that part of it. There is just a sprinkling of romance.
Okay,
There's
okay.
just a
A
hint.
little bit, just a little bit.
I am embarrassed to write anything super spicy, so it is not like the stuff is just alluded to. It's
Yeah.
not in your face because I'm
Right.
like my dad is currently reading it, and I'm like I
Yeah.
I
I
can't.
understand. Hey, everybody has their own comfort level. I don't write spicy books either for different reasons, but at least I don't write them at the moment. You never know in the future, but right
Yeah,
now, yeah, I'm with you. I don't write those particular scenes too much.
yeah.
Kind of.
I mean, the main vampire is Angelica, and she's like a swinging pendulum. You don't know she's either gonna be like super super sexy and hey, I'm gonna tease you, or like dangerous. So, and she's very type A personality, where she's just she likes things a specific way and she does not share. And then there's another vampire named Bryce Underwood who is like her arch nemesis, but they're like frenemies.
Oh
Like
yeah.
they like hang out, but they don't like each other and they're constantly in competition.
Oh. So I'm assuming, does he have another kind of hotel thing?
Yes, he has
Okay,
his own
wine bar.
apartment building. Yes, he has his own apartment building, and what he likes to do is try to take from her. He could find
Oh.
his own, but he prefers to go try to steal hers just because it gets under her skin.
Yes. Yes. That's fascinating. Okay. I have lots of questions now. This is great. This is great. But before we go too far, I'll just give my little
Yeah.
spiel. But for anybody who doesn't know who's logging on, I'm also an author. My name is Katharine Wibell. And I write epic fantasy for different age brackets. I have, so I guess I'll go from youngest to oldest. Depending on what you are interested in, I hopefully will reach you. So I have my young adult, and here's the list of subgenres: young adult, portal fantasy, noble bright. It's just adventure filled multiverse full of 12 magical planets. I incorporate all different kind of mythological beast beings from all around the world in that kind of series, and it's just a lot of fun. It's that whole chosen one archetype, and if you just like those sweeping long adventures like a Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, you'll probably like that.
Mhm.
Now, I also have my new adult War Shifter fantasy series,
Ooh.
and that is called the Incarn Saga. They're my debut series. It's 4 books. That is my only complete series at the moment. And that one's set in a kingdom on the verge of war where both humans and shapeshifters have to decide if they can push aside their differences to fend off an oncoming threat. And
Hmm.
then my third series is you can't really see it right now because it's just the lighting, but it's my adult dark Viking fantasy. It's very immersive in Nordic myth and mythos, and that's the Guardian Speaker. There are 7 of those out currently. And that one's a lot of fun for me because they're novellas, so they're quick reads. And the first one of those is my first audiobook. All 3 series are being finally turned into audio, but the first one, The Guardian Speaker, is out right now in audiobook, and that was such a big win for me this year. Yay! But
Oh
that's
my
my spiel.
gosh, that's amazing! Oh
Well,
my
thank
gosh,
you.
I feel like audiobooks like that's like whole nother level of like arriving.
Oh yeah. Well, it is, and I avoided it for so long, and now I'm playing catch up with all this, and it's kind of a little overwhelming because now I don't know why. I was first doing one, but then I had a lot of inquiries about, well, this series, or what about this series? And so I was like, well, let's do all 3, and they're all being turned or converted, transformed, whatever the terminology is for that, from paper slash virtual book to audio by different narrators and narrating groups. And so I'm really excited about all their projects. But yeah, it's a totally different animal, at least on the author's side of things. It's like your book is complete, but it's not. And it has its own series of steps to check off. But audiobooks are a fun challenge. We can get into that later. But what I do want to ask you right now, and here's a question because you are talking about your characters with type A personality for the vampire in your story. I have never thought about considering, or at least pitching or describing my characters as type A or type B personalities. I think that's fascinating. So your main character is a human. What's his personality type then?
Oh, I don't know. He's pretty relaxed. So probably a type B.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably. His coping mechanism is joking and giving people nicknames, and they don't like it.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating. Now, let me ask, because you said he joined through a non-dating app, a vampire pairing with human app. Where did you come up with that idea? Because that's pretty cool, and that is something I've never heard before.
Yeah. So I was in the car. That's where I usually, pre-pandemic, that's where I would usually get ideas. I'd, of course, be driving. For my day job, I drive all over my county. So I'm always in the car driving or doing something. And so I was in the car and I was like, what would happen if a vampire had an app to reach their people? And that's how Chateau Merlot came to be.
I love it.
And I'm also a pantser. So that's literally all I went into the story with.
Hey, that's fine. At what stage did you pick out the title? Because that's always an interesting one. When some people come in and it's like, immediately, this is the title. Others work it until it's about to be published. And you're like, I just need to put words on the front cover.
Well, it was close to, it was done. And it had a completely different title. The original title was Once Bitten, because that's the name of the app. But then I was informed that there is an 80s movie with Jim Carrey, and it called Once Bitten, and it has to deal with a female vampire.
What?
Yeah, I know. I'd never heard of it or watched it. And I was like, you know what? I don't think this is the title I want, because if that's what it's bringing up, I want it to be something different. And so Chateau Merlot, I had already come up with, that was the building, because I was like, it's going to be her wine cellar. So it's got to have alcohol in it. It's got to have wine in it. So why not Chateau Merlot? It's red.
I like it.
So that was, so I did do a title change after the first draft was written, because I was like, I think I need to change that. But I did keep Once Bitten as the app.
I like it. I do like it. But yeah, it's always interesting. And by the way, if anybody does on your end pop up with questions or comments, you feel free to answer them or read them aloud. So, you know, because I can't necessarily see your comments and vice versa. So always let me know.
All right. So Venus says it was it's a favorite cult film from the 80s. It's super campy, but definitely worth the watch. So I did not want to watch it while I was in the writing and editing phase of it, because I really didn't want to potentially take any ideas.
Fair enough.
But now I think it is time.
Oh, yes. No, I understand. It was for a while, which was probably, I can't say this is what you should do. Honestly, I think there is like a happy medium, but for a long time when I was writing, I really didn't read in my genre. I was reading like the ancient epics and the sagas, because again, I pull a lot from old myth. So reading the source materials and other things dramatically different, but not really a current fantasy. And so now I'm trying to play catch up. I'm like, what are all these books everybody's talking about? I'm like, the last time I was in touch was probably Harry Potter and maybe Game of Thrones, but that's still been a moment.
Yeah. I did read, or I have read in the vampire genre, but I haven't for quite a while. Like I read, so going back to the 90s, Vampire Diaries, before Vampire Diaries was on CW, it was a book series in the 90s. Not my favorite series, but I did read it. My favorite series by that particular author was The Secret Circle, which CW also tried to do, but that one didn't work. But so I read way back in the mid 90s was Vampire Diaries. In college and after grad school, I read a majority of Anne Rice's books of her
I mean,
vampires.
she's a heavy hitter. I feel like if you're gonna write vampires,
Yeah.
you have to at least read Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah. So I really liked most of, I read a lot of hers, and I'm sure there's others in there that I'm forgetting. In the past year, I read a really strange book that there was no indication on the book anywhere that it had anything to do with vampires or aliens, and not like illegal aliens, but like aliens,
Actual aliens from the sky.
actual aliens. And I just never thought I would ever read a book that had both of those in there.
Oh, the fun thing about modern writing is you can get pretty much anything. And if the tricky part of being a modern writer is to become creative and new enough that it doesn't sound like a cookie cutter thing.
Right. Oh, I know. And the part of it is it's for a book club that I run for work. And because I work with seniors that are 60 and older. And so this was a book club for them, and they do not like they don't like paranormal, they don't like horror, they don't like, and if it says ghost or vampire, alien, they're like, nope, count me out. And they got all of that in one book, and they all liked it. And I was like, come on, we can expand. And they're like, no, we're good.
Small doses. No, yeah, it is funny to know that there are definitely kind of populations, and I think that's always a trick for a writer, because there are populations who are like, this is what I like, and this is what I like, yet every so often they'll have a book that they absolutely love of a totally different genre, and even still, they refuse to explore that genre because this is what they like, this is what they like. I'm bad about that too, I will admit. Like, again, if it's not sci-fi, maybe dystopian, maybe a little sprinkling of, again, that action kind of story, I usually don't read them. But the few times someone has just, another person challenges me, like, here, try to read this, I usually like those books. It's just, I like what I like. I think we're all a little bit like that.
Oh, I know. One of the times I went to our library, I used our library quite a bit, and one of my favorite librarians, I went up to her and I was like, okay, I don't know what to read. Tell me what to read. Because this is before I joined TikTok, so I didn't have anybody, And so she literally just walked me around the library, and I left with a stack of books like this tall. And I was so excited. It was like the best experience I'd ever had. I was like, just tell me what to read.
Please tell me. I love that. I have a question that popped up from Erin saying, how would you distinguish between research and having your ideas influenced from another's writing? So do you want to tackle this first? Or you want me to?
Research and so
how do you distinguish researching versus being influenced by other writing? Is there a distinguishing method for you?
That's tough. I mean, because there's always that idea that there's no quote unquote original ideas. It's just original, your point of view. So you have to go into it with some knowledge, at least some.
See, I'll jump in there while you.
Yeah,
I know. It's like when you throw out a question, sometimes you're like, okay. But for me, I mean, researching, obviously, there's a purpose of it, and so I'm either needing to figure this out. I want to research a detail, or could be verbiage, or whatever it is that you're looking into. But you're having a point because you already have kind of a reason to utilize it potentially. And then being influenced, obviously, is kind of happenstantial. You're not intending to be. And those are the tricky things, because those are the ones you have to be aware, be, hypercritical of your work, because what you don't want to do is ever be, accused of copywriting someone else or plagiarizing someone else. So you do want to make sure, even if you are inspired or influenced by someone to an extent, that your work is different enough that it is qualified at that point as unique. And the same thing goes with other things like music. When people write, there's a conversation always in the music community of the background melodies and how close can they be versus, how many other kind of chords to qualify them as a unique and novel tune. So I think the distinguishing factor for me is intent versus accidental, but even still, when you're doing your editing phase, kind of be aware. It's like, did this came from somewhere? And if it does, kind of decide if it's been manipulated enough to become what they would be, I guess, a new story and not dipping on someone else's toes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. Like for mine, what I had to research was blood types. So like I've got a blood type hierarchy. So I had to research more like, okay, what's the most rare blood and what, and what's the breakdown as far as what's the order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I mean, depending on the story, has done different kind of research. The one I think I've researched the most is my Viking-based, Norse mythology-based one, because I really do want it to be as true to form to the old myth. And as I'm fleshing out the story, I want the descriptions to be as close as they can to be to what they believed back then. The same thing with the research on how people lived during the Viking era. I want to make sure I use the right clothing and the food types and, terminology for the longship, which, for instance, I had to correct myself because here's one of those like author things. And I've actually caught this on other authors and I was like, ooh, you did my mistake too, where my editor came back and kind of did this like, you're writing about a longship. I'm like, yes. Well, you're saying they're leaning over a gunwale. I was like, yes, that's the side of the ship. That's what you call it. She's like, guns weren't invented yet. And I was like, oh, true. She's like, you have to use a different word or descriptor. You can't use that. And I was like, oh, okay. Good point. Now what do I do? Because that's what you call it. So those lovely editing and things, research matters. But yes. Oh, man. But yeah, no. So that's cool. But yeah, blood types, I don't even know my blood type. That's a problem.
I am positive, and that is like, is it like 11th, 12th, 13th floor in Chateau Merlot? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I just put myself on the 13th floor if I was going to live there.
I love it.
I've kind of embraced the number 13 with this book. Nothing by like on purpose. I wrote the book without looking at my blood type. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'm on the 13th floor. I just happened to make my book cost $13, like the actual paperback. I was like, we're just gonna, embrace the 13.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I like that. I in my Jed Chronicle series talk about the concept of numbers of power and certain numbers that reoccur, and so much that they have almost like a magic in and to themselves, and 13 is one of them. And it's actually a number that pops up a lot in the series. And even though my main character progresses throughout her teenage years and into her 20s in that series, she starts at 13. So again, it's that repetitive number. So
yeah,
I got you. I like 13. No superstition here. I just like it. Oh man.
Yeah.
But let me ask. Oh, sorry.
Sure,
yeah.
Go on.
No, you go.
And my friend was pointed out, she goes, most buildings don't have a 13th floor. I'm like, yeah, but it's a vampire novel, so she's going to.
Hey, no, that's true. I was like, the reason why they don't have it is because it's like bad luck and all this kind of ill omens. And I forgot, there's some other did a lot of stories about why you don't do the 13th floor. So I was about to ask that, but I didn't want to bring it up in case, there are always someone that points something out and you're like, oh no. I didn't want to. Intentional 13th floor. Okay, but that's pretty cool for a paranormal urban fantasy. I like that.
Yeah.
So, are you trying to write a series? Is this a standalone book? Because I know you said this is your side hustle. I mean, are you going to write more down the line, or are you a one and done?
Yes. So the original idea was to, I'm like, so it takes 82 vampires to feed one vampire for a year. So I have
Oh.
potentially 80 some stories that I could tell, plus all the employees. So there's the assistant. So all of the people have an assistant because they're not
Mhm.
allowed to drive because she wants to keep them under control. I've got a doctor because they have to have their own doctor. They can't be going to a regular doctor anymore. I've got the personal trainer, Harlow. So I've got all of those stories. And then my husband decided that I should write 2 books in the Chateau series and then write 2 and go to werewolves and do 2 books in a werewolf series and then do a 5th book in a crossover.
Interesting. That's
So
neat.
I'm like, oh, is that what I'm doing?
Hey, you are the author. You can do whatever you want. You could attempt, I don't necessarily advise it, you could attempt, like what I'm doing, is putting out 2 series simultaneously. But if yours are in the same universe, then you could have crossovers periodically. Kind of like
Yeah.
the, when Buffy the Vampire and Angel kind of split and then they kind of did all the I don't know. Yes. But,
Mm-hmm.
do that in book form.
Yeah. And so like I actually have the title of my second book
Yay.
and I'm very excited about it. But I'm so stuck. And I actually have done more plotting and planning with the second book than I've ever done with anything before.
Hmm.
And I'm just stuck.
Are you stuck with the plotting or stuck with like the actual
Actually
writing?
writing it. Like I know it's going to happen and I'm kind of like, "Oh, this is what's going to happen." And I've tried to look up more um plotting, like how to do it because as I said, I'm a pantser and I just jump in and start writing. And I'm like, "Okay, I think I need to plan a little bit, especially if there are potential plans for other books. I need to like remember how I describe things and people."
No, here's the thing is like, I think if you, now I kind of an in-betweener. What do they call them? There's so many terms. Like someone's termed it as a
Plancer?
planter. Yes. I was going to
Yeah.
say, I'm that kind of between person. So my rule of thumb is yes, do your storyline however in depth you want, but make sure you allow yourself the freedom to feel okay if it goes different or if
Yeah.
it kind of does this bowing around your storyline because you don't want to, if you hold too tightly, you know, you might panic. And I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what's restraining you as your over narrowed plot.
Yeah.
You
Well,
might
it's
consider being like, it's okay if I just start putting words on paper and see where it goes.
oh, I know. And I think it's pretty much I'm struggling with figuring out which character I want to follow. That
Ah.
I think that's my struggle because I've redone like the beginning part several times and I'm
Hmm.
like this I'll get a little wise. I'm like this doesn't work because of a variety of different reasons. So then I go back and change it. I'm like I'm in the wrong person's head. I need to go somewhere else.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've never written a book where I kind of jump between different characters' heads, so I could not advise that. But some people do it, and they do it very well. So that may be something you want to consider down the line. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, when you have such a big cast and trying to select a new person to kind of get into their head, I can see that being a little tough. I have a comment
Yeah.
by an Andrew saying, I will
Mhm.
definitely be looking into these books. So there you go.
And on the back cover of my book, I have, it's hard to see, right in there, there's a
Mm-hmm.
little Easter egg.
Aw.
So um, that is a little soda can that a friend of mine convinced me to put on the back of my book. I was like, absolutely not. And it's there. Um, and so for those people that read it, they will then know what that soda can is.
That's cool. I've never thought about that. Kind of like tucking away as you said, an Easter egg on the back part of the cover or an inner flap if you're that
Mhm.
fancy. I am a Amazon only person, so we don't have the benefit at this moment to have those inner flaps on hardcovers
Yeah.
yet. That would please, if you're out there, Zon, please do that. Take a look at that. But yes, no, that's kind of cool. I like that Easter egg idea. I do. So
Yeah.
who designed your book cover then? Is that something you did, or did you get
No.
someone
Oh,
to?
so, all right. So I knew I wanted wine bottles on the cover. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that, but I am not an artist by trade. So, like, I played around with Canva, coming up with just a little play around with it, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, oh, I'm going to make this my cover. So
Yeah.
then a friend of mine, the same friend that convinced me to do the can on the back of the cover, she is an artist. And so she did a mock-up,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pretty much what I have. And then I found a cover artist that I worked with, and we did struggle to get to where this is. She
Yeah.
kept putting in like buildings and stuff, and I was like, no, I just want the wine is front and center.
I get that.
So we eventually finally got to this to what we ended up with. So it was very nerve-wracking, like I really, really wanted it to be the way that the mock-up was that my friend had
Mm-hmm.
done. And I gave her the photo. I was like, this is what I want, just not, because she did it just like as a drawing. I was like, but I want like to look like a real bottle of wine. I don't want it to be I'm trying to think of the word, more, I don't know.
You're trying to go for like the what's that? Well, the Twilight books from, I don't know. I think they've been redone since then, but like they have that one item in the front, and it's pretty. It's that big focal item, pretty
Yeah.
simple, eye catching. Yeah, I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
That kind of vibe.
Yeah. And so we finally got to there, and then I was just very, very happy with it. And I even have like the idea of what the next cover would look like.
Mm-hmm.
Like in my head, I'm not an artist, but I drew it. And I was like, this is what I want.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. I when I kind of work on my covers, I have at least a rough idea of what I want. Some I'm a little more picky about. Others I'm a little less, where I'm like, okay, I trust you. I want you to have some fun.
Yeah.
But at least do this minimally. So I understand it's always a kind of a give and take and a process when it comes to developing your covers, and everybody wants to be happy with the product.
Yeah. I mean, and I looked at your covers, and they are all beautiful.
Oh,
I
thank you.
really, really like them all.
Thank
I was
you.
like, oh, this
Yeah,
is so pretty.
it's always interesting to try to figure out, because you want to have the covers obviously at first glance tell you what genre it's about, what age it's hopefully pitching to, and et cetera, so on. So you want it to kind of have a similar vibe to what is on trend at the moment, yet be stunningly unique, that people aren't being like, haven't I seen this cover before by a different author? It's that trick. It goes back to that, how close and how far and where is that perfect sweet spot for everything. But yeah, covers can be tough. I have Aaron chiming in saying, would it be helpful to give the artist a defining quote or phrase from your book to inspire them? Maybe.
Potentially.
I mean, I can see that. I've heard, not all, I've heard some cover artists will read, snippets or all that, and others are just purely, you tell them, a couple quick facts, and it just depends, I think, on the cover artist too, because their job is obviously to turn covers pretty quickly, which can, I guess I would like them to read as much as possible of the books, because then they can pull more out versus doing a quick turnaround. But it just depends on the cover artist, and you as an author have to decide, the comfort level of what you need to, or how much they're getting from you to do your designs. At least that's my opinion. I know from both the ones I work with, they have a set kind of, here's the form you fill out, here's the content I want, give me, make sure you give me and fill out all these kind of the last, I guess, depending, do you have an idea? Do you have an image in mind? Describe it, attach photos, and you can, like, as you said, have a friend sketch it out or send that in. And the last, like, describe the main characters, each of them have their own forms. I don't know if the person you worked with had how much they asked, but It just depends on the author.
Not
I mean,
not
artist.
tons. No, she didn't have tons to go off of. I mean, I did send her like my book blurb.
Mm-hmm.
Um and what she was taking from it was the like the as I said, the building.
Mm-hmm.
And like Chateau Merlot, it's very, very green. Like she's like Angelica is like super, she's like my people, they need a good life because I want them to live a long time so I can keep feeding off of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gives them like this beautiful apartment building. There's rolling hills and grounds that are always green. You know, she's got like this award-winning flower garden. You know, she's got like she wants them happy. Um, but like what I had been given was just like very gray.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, but I want it, you know,
Put
like
a
we're
little
having
more
a
color.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also didn't, I wanted the, you know, the wine to be,
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of hinting again that it's a wine cellar,
Mm-hmm.
but for vampires.
Vampires. I feel like if you're gonna do a advertisement, that's what you need to say. It's like a wine cellar for vampires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Slap
And
that
when
on
I
an
go,
ad and go.
I know. And, you know, when I do author events, I've got a big old poster that I've made up and it has what's your blood worth on the top. And then I've got all the floors and what blood types would live there and what their compensation would be per month. And
Wow,
so like people come over and they're like, I was like, oh, it's for my book.
that's cool. I wonder if I don't know. I feel bad. I did not look to see if you had an author's website and what was on it. If you did, but that should be something that's tucked in there. That kind of
Yeah.
interactive thing. I think that's good. Also, do you have an author's website?
I do, but I'm not super happy with it right now. So I need to
Hey,
figure,
that's
I need
one of
to,
those things you can update and refresh as you go along.
yeah.
So don't worry.
I do have a Facebook author page. I'm on
This one.
Instagram. This one. Instagram is hard for me. I don't know why.
It's the hardest one for me. I just cannot figure it out. Oh
I'm
well.
like, okay, I'll post stuff and I get better responses on Facebook or TikTok. So
Yeah.
like I'll just focus mostly on those two.
Hey, and that's the thing is like that is a good rule of thumb that I wish I knew early on was start small or start with 1 to 2 social media platforms, then you expand as an author. I try to do all the things and then kind of couldn't figure them out because I was trying to teach myself too many things and I never could master any of them, which again, you stick in, you master the craft, you expand or anything. And so now I'm kind of trying to slowly re-educate myself on all my weak points, including that one, which I'm still, Instagram's hard. I don't know. I think it's just because I can't do beauty shots in my books and I just don't know how. And I know that's very popular and I just do not know how to do that.
Yeah. I appreciate that TikTok allows me to post to Instagram. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah.
Go to TikTok. Go be free.
Go be free. Oh, yes. But yeah, no, I've been doing that kind of repurposing of different kind of things. And I think repurposing is lovely, be it creating something on this platform, sharing it, or creating something on another platform, sharing it here. That's just so nice. It saves time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Author advertising hassles. I could go on, but we don't need to do that. Okay, so how do you, because you were saying, how do you try to reach audiences? You said you do authors events, because I heard about your poster, and so obviously you do signings at places. So where do you do signings? Let people know about that kind of.
Yeah. So my first one was at in my town here. We have a wonderful bookstore that they really support local authors. They actually have a section in their bookstore strictly for local authors, and they're a used bookstore. And so they're
Oh,
just fantastic. And so in the summers, when we have our farmers market, so our farmers market's on Wednesdays, and they have a program called Authors at the Market. And so they'll
oh,
give the authors a table to be there, and they sell the books, and the authors are there to sign. And it's a really, really wonderful thing that they offer.
yeah.
So um, the end of June was my launch, and so I did it at their store, and
Oh, I
it
love that.
was it was like the best day ever. So that was really nice. A local martini bar allowed me to go there and do an author event.
I've done
Um,
one at a bar as well. I love that.
it was really nice. It was small, but it was really nice to be able just to talk to people. And then there was this past weekend there was a library that did an author fair. But it was not super well attended, but that was okay. I got to meet some really, really nice authors, which was fantastic.
Oh, I love that.
And then in September, there's there's me and three other local authors that are going to work with an LGBTQ plus bakery, and they've received a lot of hate. Like their store was actually vandalized, like their windows were broken,
Mhm.
and somebody got in and wrote slurs on their bakery. And so we're going to work with them to do we're going to go there and do books at the bakery, and they're going to do some
Oh,
cute like cookie, like I think like bookish cookies
I
and
love
stuff like
that.
that. So
Please post pictures of that,
I know.
Stephen.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. And they actually, after that, their village was like, sorry, you can't do events. Um, and so they fought back, and we had to reschedule ours because we didn't have enough time to promote and everything, because they were just, I was like, our event is potato, like small potatoes next to what they were dealing with. And we're like, we don't want to cancel, we just want to reschedule so that we all have time to
Hmm.
promote. So as I said, there's four of us that are going to do that, and we're all really excited. And then in September, my hometown library has invited me to speak at my library, the one that
Oh, fun.
was my hometown.
I love that. I love personal engaging events. Yeah, I haven't done a signing lately, but I always love attending those. They're a lot of fun. And then in September, Labor Day weekend, that Sunday, since I'm in Georgia,
Mhm.
I'll be at Dragon Con at a TikTok author panel, being on the panel. So that's my first live engagement pretty much this year. This year.
That's
But
awesome.
that'll be fun because I love, and that's the fun thing about this platform is that you can meet so many people who are interested in books, interested in reading, writing, and publishing. So that's kind of fun. I like it.
Yeah.
So for you, are you an author who is wide? In other words, are you exclusive to Amazon? Because I'm exclusive to Amazon. So I'm always
Yeah.
curious to see what authors chose to do when they're publishing.
Yeah. So I'm on Amazon because it made the most
Yeah.
sense, and I was like, let's just, it's they're going to I can get my ISBN from them, so that was my choice. It was just like it's just the easiest for me because I'm like, I do work a 40-hour a week job. I've got kids. I am a Daisy Troop Scout leader.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, I've got a lot of stuff going on. So I'm like, I need this to be as easy and low maintenance as possible.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's something that I could look into expanding in the future. But for now, I'm like, I'm just going to stay here.
Yeah, no, I understand. I understand. I'm currently exclusive for all formats through Amazon and their affiliates,
Mhm.
but I am more and more considering should I or should I not, because I did not realize I could do this. I can be exclusive on KU for the ebooks through Amazon and still do wide for print versions, which I didn't realize. I thought exclusive was for everything, so I just was only one way. But now I'm curious. I'm like, should I try to expand and do print versions through one of these other platforms like Ingram Spark, where my books can then be reached and read by people who are in like Barnes and Noble and other kind of these other kind of stores. And I'm like, should I? Should I not? Should I? Is it worth all that time and effort? Because you do need to reformat. You do need to get the covers redesigned. It sounds really dumb, but it's the truth. You know, that's a lot of, again, money, effort, time, and trying to relearn a whole new platform. That's, again, time, energy, effort.
Well, I Googled myself, and my book actually came up on Barnes and Noble.
Ooh.
And I was like, how did that get there? So I'm not sure how it got onto barnesandnoble.com, but it's there. I don't know.
I don't know. That one's interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't know how that works. I've never actually, I don't think I am. I don't think I am. But no, it's one of those things I have to kind of figure out how to do this. How do I do this?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't do anything. I just was like, oh, let me Google. Let me see if, you know, like a friend of mine, she found out that some people had written reviews on her book on their blogs. And so she had found them that way. So I was like, oh, let's Google me.
Interesting.
And I was like, hey, I told my husband, I was like, I'm on Barnes and Noble.
Interesting. Well, be careful, because I don't know if you're in the KU program, but just be careful, because they don't like when you're not exclusive, if things slip through.
Well, it's strictly the paperback.
Interesting. That is so different. Okay, I have no idea how that happened.
Because I am on KU for the ebook.
Yeah.
But the paperback is on Amazon and apparently Barnes and Noble.
Oh, well, that's cool.
I was like, okay.
Check. That's done.
I was like, oh, I didn't have to do anything. That's awesome. I like it when that happens. It's like, oh,
thank you.
Okay. Just thank you.
I'll take that extra promotion. Yes, thank you. Anytime. Oh yeah, but no, that is cool. Now I have to like Google and be like, I don't think I'm that fortunate. I don't think I'm that lucky. I'm always like the last one placing when it comes to this. So I don't think I'm that lucky, but I will have to Google just in case. You never know. That would be cool. So let me ask, would you ever want your books to become audiobook format? I know, again, when we're talking about limited time, that is, and I understand completely, a lot.
Yeah. Of course. Isn't that kind of like, you know, like a goal? Like, see, I love audiobooks. I do. Because I am in the car so much, I do listen to audiobooks, especially for work, because you know, an audiobook can be 8 to 15 hours long and sometimes longer. And so, and especially since the pandemic, I'm strictly going online and looking at the books. I'm not looking at how long the books are. And I have a month to read this on top of doing my job and everything else, because I carve out time when I'm working to be able to read, because I'm like, if this is for my work, I should be able to read, you know? And so if a book is like 15 hours long, I'm going to really need to be listening to it while I'm driving to an event.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I have to say, I will admit, I'm totally okay with admitting this. I've never really read an audiobook. Probably when I was like really little, my parents put one in the car for some reason. I don't remember that. I don't remember reading we'll qualify, reading an audiobook. But since I started doing this process, that's when I started having this panic. I'm like, what do people want out of a narrator? What is it, you know, because I don't listen to those. I just didn't know. So I did ask a lot of people and do a lot of research, because I was a little in the dark on all of that. And shame on me, because after doing this whole process, I'm like, audiobooks are kind of cool.
Yeah.
I never did it. I also work from the house, so I don't do the lots of driving. I don't do that. So a lot of things
Hmm.
that people do typically say, the reasons why they go audio versus a physical print versus an ebook or whatever. Um, I just don't do it. So I will say,
Yeah.
do like it now. I see why people like it. I don't know if I will get into buying that for a version. I am definitely a sucker for print versions. I like to have
Hmm.
my bookshelves take over the house slowly.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love like the print version, but for like my, as I said, for my audio, for my book club at work, I'm not going to go buy all those books. I use the library because I have to set, because I also work with low income seniors. So I need to make
Hmm.
sure that the books are available for people either free at the library or on Hoopla or Cloud Library or one of those. So I really try to utilize our local library so that anybody can get in, especially during the pandemic. I wanted to make sure that if they couldn't get to the library for whatever reason, that they could still get it through like digital version,
Hmm.
and so that was a big, a big thing for me. But when I was in grad school, I was in grad school and I was working full time and I was doing an internship. And so I had absolutely no time to actually read a book outside of what was for classes. But I still wanted that fiction or fantasy or something, to at least give me a little bit of joy.
Yeah.
And so,
Escapism, I call it. I love to escape into another world. It's fantastic.
right. And so I would borrow audiobooks, and I would borrow 3 or 4 at a time because I was like, what if I don't like the narrator? I don't want to be stuck with this book for like a couple days until I can actually get back to the library. So I'd grab 3 or 4 different ones and see which one I felt connected to the most.
Mhm.
So that year I listened to a lot of audiobooks.
Yeah, you're the kind of person I need to like answer the question, what kind of voice do you like? But yeah, no, I love all my selections. So hopefully other people do, but I really like them. I guess you
I
have to
mean,
kind of choose what you like in the end.
mm-hmm.
Hopefully other
Yeah.
people like your choice.
Oh, yeah, and the thing is, there's so many different audiobook narrators out there
Mhm.
that are so fantastic that it's
Mhm.
like, you know, um, I will listen to any of them. Just, you know, the only one that I did not read because of or didn't continue with because of the narrator wasn't because the a narrator was bad. It was they had a narrator for every single character,
Mhm.
and I was like, I just couldn't do it. I don't mind having a couple narrators. I listened to one. It might have been Hearts in Atlantis by Stephen King,
Mhm.
which is a really weird book. And one of them is Stephen King reads one chapter and then this other narrator reads the other and they go back and forth. And I was like, I was okay with that, but I was like, they're all in the same chapter. So like if somebody says something, it's this person taught. It was more than what I could process at that moment.
Well, that's fair. I'm kind of like the opposite, where I like I like that old school kind of radio program where you do get the immersive thing. So, like I went all the ways for my 3 series. So I have one narrated by a woman, one narrated by a man, one by a full cast. So I have a little bit of everything. Again, everybody's different on what they want to listen
Mm-hmm.
to. So we will see.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, but no, that's cool about the concept of turning a book into an audiobook is always fun and complicated. But let me ask you, are you trying to get your books, because you're talking about how much you love libraries, do you have your books in local libraries? Are you wanting to get your books in local libraries? Okay. So let me know
Yes.
that process, because I have yet to try that and I'm
Oh,
curious.
so my local library, they just got their first copy in there, which I'm very excited about. I actually I went to my friend and the same friend that makes me do all the stuff. And she,
Yeah.
I was like, hey, can you like request my book for the library? Because it's like an online form. You go in and you type in like, oh,
Mm.
I want this book by this author, you know. So they finally ordered it. And then there's 4 other libraries in Illinois. So there's a total of 5 libraries in Illinois that have my book that I know of.
That's
And
cool.
it was people requesting them
That's so
for it
deep.
to be added. So, because I do a lot of, like, especially on Facebook, I do a lot of, hey, this is how you can support a local author without spending money, you know,
Mhm.
requesting it at a library.
I'm
And
going
I'm
to
like, I don't,
totally take this idea and utilize it.
because, because it's like, I would love my book in as many libraries as possible. I don't care that I would only get quote unquote paid for one purchase of that book. I'm like, look at all those people that could read my book,
Hmm.
you know? And my husband's local library, it's a very, very small library. His hometown has like 800 people in it.
That's tiny.
So
Yeah.
it's very, very small. And so they actually ordered it, and as they were cataloging it, one of their patrons walks in who likes vampires. She told him about it, and the librarian was going to check it out for herself, and he ended up taking it. So the day it was in, it got checked out. So
That's
that was
fantastic. Also,
that was
Erin popped up
exciting.
and said, Illinois, 3 thumbs up, woohoo, represent. So there you
Yay.
go. Love it.
And um and then there's another local library near my hometown that I'm going to do an author presentation there as well, and they ordered my book for their library.
So cool. I love it.
So yeah. So basically, a majority of the books of those 5, I think 3 of them have been requested by patrons. Because it feels weird for me to be like, "Hey, get my book,"
Yeah.
where it's a little bit nicer when you've got a good friend or a couple good friends to be like, "Hey, would you request my book for your library?"
Yeah.
And I try to do that for other authors that I really want to read their books, so that oh, you know what, this book looks really, really good. Can we get it at the library?
Hmm.
So it goes so many different ways that it's not just for yourself, but you could request other people's books as well. We have a very small house, so we don't buy all that many books because we've run out of room, and with 2 kids and all of their books,
Hmm.
it's like there's so many, and then it's like, okay, then the choice is you have to start getting rid of books, and I don't want to.
I know, that's why I'm running out of shelf space again, and I'm like, okay, where are they going? Because I'm not getting rid of them. They're my. I've worked hard for my
No.
collection. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of the hour.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you want to ask or tell people? Because I will be resharing this on my YouTube
Mm-hmm.
channel next week and putting all your information below so people can
Okay.
find you. Talking about how do you find an author. And then if anybody is listening in right now and wants to ask any more questions, do so now or hold your peace for the rest. But yes. So what is there anything you want to tell anybody
Um,
or ask?
I don't know. Um, I
It's
don't
okay.
know.
Don't panic.
I'm really enjoying being on TikTok. When I first was told, "Hey, the readers are on TikTok," I was like, "Oh no, I have to be on camera." And like, I enjoy it. I don't get tons of views, but I have fun, you
Yeah,
know.
that's important. Get fun, get
So,
out there. You do meet people, and for me, it's been a great time to not only to meet some fantastic
mhm.
readers, which has been a lot of fun to get to know. And it's always nice when someone's like, "Oh, I've been reading your," and I'm like, "Oh, you're reading my book." But it's also been really nice to meet other authors and network and talk,
Mhm.
because you can learn so much just by talking to someone else. Like now I know to kind of like start posting those, did you know you can request a book and dot dot dot. No, see, you just pick up little information
Mm-hmm.
and it helps each other just network, learn more, and hopefully all of us become better writers and more knowledgeable readers. Yay!
Yes, absolutely.
Yay. Well, thank you for coming out. And like I said, I will let you know next week when I post this, and I'll put all your tags you want under the video on my channel so people can find you in the future. Yay! But yeah,
Sounds
no,
good. Thank
honestly,
you
thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
It was. And see, it's not that scary. It's scarier. Not that it's not scary, but it's a little more intimidating doing it by yourself because you're just like, what do I say on a live feed? But
Yeah.
it's not, lives aren't scary in general. They're fun. And people
I'm
chime in.
like,
It's fantastic.
do we just like everybody just grab your book and read and we just sit together and have a reading party?
I've seen people do that. I'm not even joking. I have actually jumped on. There have been lives where I look on and it's like 5 people and all of they're either reading or doing writing sprints together. So that is a thing you could do.
That's awesome.
Not even kidding. Or do a book discussion group. I know some people do that. So you can use it for so many ways as a person who is in the bookish community. Yay.
That's awesome.
Well, it was nice to talk to you. And sorry, I have a timer ringing for some reason. I apologize. Yes, it has been very nice to talk to you. If you ever want to do this again down the line when you release book 2 or 15 or whatever your heart desires, always feel free to reach out.
Thank you so much and have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.